Geoholic.
Whoa! You say woo, I say whoa. Oh my God. If I had as much talent as this guy has in his little finger, I could actually be somebody.
I mean, it just blows me away that people can play music
so
like
good.
this.
Just puts me in a good place.
It really does. It really does.
All right, let's get on with this. Welcome back, Geoholics, episode 237.
237, believe it or not.
237, creeping closer to 250.
Oh, I know. We're going to have to do something wild and crazy for that.
Yes, we will, because we're wild and crazy guys. What is going on here? A couple updates real quick. As the calendar year is winding down.
It is.
We are renewing our Friends of the Program for 2025.
We are.
Of course, our current Friends of the Program get first right of refusal, as we like to say.
Yes, absolutely.
After November 15th, which this will probably be coming out right after that, we're opening it up. We've had a lot of people express interest in supporting the show. We've got so many really cool things going on. So if you're questioning the return on investment, don't question it.
Right. Yeah.
It's not even worth your time.
Yeah.
It's
Especially like
you should do.
The calendar of events next year is going to be wild. We're going to be in even better places than we were last year and much more. So
yes. All good things are happening. The thing is, I was just telling somebody, was it today? I said, you know what? Our listenership continues to grow. Our followers continue to grow. Our subscribers continue to grow. So you know what that tells me?
What's that?
We're still relevant.
I think so.
After 5 years, we are still relevant. And people still like us.
What helps is we just keep doing it.
I know. We're consistent.
We are consistent. And that's one of the things they say about a good podcast. You got to be consistent. And you know what? We're just going to keep doing this.
Not bad for a couple idiots.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, you had a fun day today.
I did. Actually, I had a fun week. I want to talk about it just a little bit.
Love to hear you talk about it. I'm very excited for you.
So this week I hijacked the podcast equipment and I took it downtown. Some great client, great friends of mine with the light rail team down at City Phoenix. This week is World Quality Week, and the light rail team does a great job every year for Quality Week. They do tailgate meetings, and they just do a whole thing, and all they want to do is talk about quality. How important it is, how you make better quality, how you do it on job sites. So I, about a year ago, I had mentioned like, hey, I got this podcast. I can maybe do some stuff for you during Quality Week. Thinking nothing of it. And then, sure enough, 2 months ago, they're like, hey, remember you mentioning that thing about, well, we want you to do something each day, and we got you lined up if you're up for it. And I said, okay, sure. Yeah. So I took all the equipment downtown. On Monday, we had a couple guests talking about quality. Tuesday, we had a remote guest, amazing lady from, she was actually in El Salvador, but she's a Phoenix person, PE, MBA, all the things that make you doubt your career. Yeah. And then, yesterday we had about 3 guests on, did a panel discussion. Then today they had their banquet. I did the panel discussion there. Then I ran to a golf tournament for the Solid Waste and Recycling Association, played in that, and then ran over here. And now we're doing this. And it's been a great week, and I can't say enough thanks. I was very honored to be invited to be kind of a spokesman for Quality Week and the team, and it was amazing. And I can't say enough. It was a great week, and I'm really excited about tonight. So what's new with you?
Well, after all that, the one thing you failed to mention is that at the end of the event, I think it was today, they had a little banquet or whatever.
They did.
And they presented you with our very first trophy.
Yes. It's actually like a little trophy,
it's so cool.
Beautiful glass thing, thanking the Geoholics for participating in Quality Week from the light rail team, and definitely meant a lot to me. And I can't say enough. Yeah. So man. That's going to be in the studio.
Good job,
forever.
Kid. Yep, for sure. What's new with me? Last weekend, that was fun.
The
Horses Help
event. Yeah, it turns out I won the chair that I bid on. Yes,
really?
I did. Yeah, the rocking chair. Evelyn is going to be so pumped. She's got this awesome Adirondack rocking chair thing. It's amazing.
I still think she's going to be way too big for it.
I think you're wrong.
When you get that home, you have to send me a picture.
Oh, she is definitely. You and Chelsea and all the team over there are going to get a picture of her enjoying the chair.
God. Well, congratulations on that, dude. You're on a roll.
I know, right?
Yes.
But more about the event. It was awesome. A little bit of rain. Mm-hmm. What was amazing is the rain hit and everyone just kind of got under some shelters, and then they were like completely unfazed. They're just like kind of hanging out, and then the rain passed. Everyone was all back out. Like it was an amazing event I didn't realize how many great things that they do.
Oh my gosh. It just made me want to spend money.
Right? You're like, you guys are doing awesome things. Yeah, I want to help.
Yep. Good group of people. So that was last weekend. This week, from a work perspective, our fiscal year ended on October 31st.
Oh, it did.
Yes. And clean slate. It's amazing. Okay. And I am so much better prepared this year than I was 6 months ago when I got, elevated to this position in the middle of the year. So I am in a really good place. It's like clean slate, fresh start. It's all on me now for the next year. So excited,
no pressure,
nervous, but all things are good. And like our first quarter is already shaping up to be something great. So
that's amazing. I'm happy for you.
I'm in a good place as well.
That is good.
Knock on. Do you think this is wood? Stone?
No, I don't know what
I think it's plastic. But that's what you're supposed to do. All right, let's move on. NLC Prep Song of the Week. To find out more about NLC Prep, go to nlcprep.com. Excuse me. NLC Prep is for those dedicated to passing their land surveying exams on the very first try. And if you haven't already, make sure you listen to the Tony Nettleman episode.
That'll be coming out. I think that's the next one that'll happen. Before this one.
It was really, really good.
Yeah. Amazing guy. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome guy. Okay. What do you got, Sean?
Okay. That was, I'm probably going to butcher this again, Otmar Liebert and Luna Negra, a song called Havana Club. Otmar Liebert is a German-born guitarist and composer known for pioneering a style that blends flamenco with elements of jazz, Latin, and world music. Born in Cologne in 1959, Liebert began playing guitar at a young age, eventually developing his unique style that he calls Nuevo Flamenco. Liebert is recognized for his virtuosity on the guitar and his ability to create evocative, atmospheric music. Liebert's work has earned him multiple Grammy nominations and dedicated fan base worldwide, solidifying his status as a prominent figure in contemporary instrumental and world music.
Dude, you're on point, man.
I mean, you're doing some tough words there.
I'm impressed. One thing, if you're listening to this, we have already attended Trimble Dimensions.
Oh, yes.
And I can tell you right now, we had a good time.
I'm certain that we had a good time. It's always a good time with those guys.
Oh, man, I can't wait. And of course, this evening, we are in the Altera Central studio.
And we are going to, by the time you hear this, we would have already hung out with all our great friends at Altera Central at the Trimble Dimensions show.
Indeed. And one other thing to mention, they have already signed up or committed to being our PLS sponsor for 2025.
Absolutely. I mean,
so
that's
excited.
A great relationship. Those guys are awesome. I think everything works well with them. So,
yep. And we had a lot of fun with them on their episode here a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
A little too much fun at some point. But
that was a blast.
It was awesome. Yeah. All right. A little bit. Altera Central is the, authorized premier Trimble dealer for survey mapping, GIS, forensics, and marine equipment in Texas, Oklahoma, Arizona, and New Mexico. They have 8 offices and provide sales, rentals, repairs, and support for the full line of Trimble products. GPS, GNSS receivers, robotic total stations, scanners, Seiko accessories, mobile mapping system, used equipment, and field supplies, including Juniper receivers and tablets, LaserTech True Pulse rangefinders, and micro drones, UAVs. They also offer field supplies and can deliver them right to your job site, which is incredibly convenient, all backed by a service department with one of the fastest turnarounds in the nation. To find out more, go to alteracentral.com.
I got to add one quick thing.
Please.
Again, it came up today.
Yeah.
And it's the best partnership, I think, with Altera. Well, one of the people in the office was like, hey, we need an R10. We need to replace something. The first thing I thought of is, hey, just before you do anything, go to the Geoholics Marketplace, click on that used link, and see if there's some good used equipment on Altera's website. There's always great stuff. Let's see what's up there. It pops up. If you can grab it, great. And I mean, we've already gotten a couple things off there. That's awesome. I can't say enough. It's a good resource.
The marketplace has worked out really well.
It really has.
Yep. So go to geoholics.com and click on the marketplace tab. Tons of really good stuff going on there. All right. Next up, we have the Geomax weekly service pro tip. To find out more about Geomax, go to geomax-positioning.com.
Okay, so I've read this a couple times, and I still stumbled over it. So I'm going to do my best because it's a little tricky. It's a little tricky how it's worded, and you'll understand that in a second.
One word of advice: follow the periods and commas.
Oh, really? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So same thing that I tell Evelyn. Like, okay, that's a comma. Take a breath. That's a period. Pause. Okay, here we go. Every man is said to have his peculiar ambition. Whether it be true or not, I can say for one that I have no other so great as that of being truly esteemed of my fellow man.
And I thought, well, of course, my hero.
Of course.
Abraham Lincoln. And with all of the doings that happened here in the last 48 hours from an election perspective, I thought it was very fitting.
I like the let's just take it back and I like the general vibe from what he's talking about there.
Indeed. Absolutely.
And that it was 200 years ago and it still kind of rings,
Still applies today. All right. Next up, we have the GeoSearch Career Corner. To find out more about GeoSearch, go to geosearch.com. These are some tips that GeoSearch has provided, which, by the way, have also signed up to be a friend of the program for 2025.
You gonna do all these?
I'll just do them all.
Okay, good.
All right. So adaptability. These are things that GeoSearch recommends that you focus on. The only constant in business is change. Adapt to survive and thrive. Customer focus. Customer satisfaction is not a department. It's everyone's job. I love that one. Integrity in business. Integrity is not an option. It's a necessity. 1,000%. Leadership. Lead by example. Your actions set the tone for your team. Perseverance. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Continuous improvement. Always seek ways to improve. Excellence is a continuous process. And finally, networking. Your network is your net worth. Build and maintain strong relationships. Those are all really, really good.
And I really like that it's coming from the GeoSearch guys. And these guys are all about finding people new careers and finding great talent for those looking for it, right?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, they're just a great resource of information as well. So again, check out geosearch.com. You think, are we ready for this?
I know you went kind of quick there.
Really?
Yeah.
How long has it been? Yeah. Well, we did that in under 15 minutes. That's amazing.
Yeah, that was good. That was a lot of stuff.
And we packed a lot of good content in there. We added some value for sure. Now let's make a friend. What do you say?
I think we should.
Actually, an old friend, but this week's guest is, of course, presented by Airworks. Airworks' mission is to provide the data intelligence that powers the built world. To find out more, go to airworks.io. We have Dennis McKay with us this evening, or this week. Well, this evening. This week, both. Dennis has actually been on before. We tried on episode 85.
I heard, 85.
Yep. Things didn't go so well as a result of him being in his car in a campground in Colorado. So one could understand why that may not have gone so well.
I want to hear a little bit more about that story when we keep going.
But he was on episode 115, and that was pre-Sean.
It was.
That was the old studio. That was Connor O'Gorman.
Oh, COG.
COG was on that one, yeah. So you may remember him from that. So if I may, a little bit about Dennis before we loop him in here. Dennis spent his childhood in McMinnville, Oregon. He earned a BS from Oregon Institute of Technology. Go.
I mean, it says it right here. I wouldn't have guessed it.
Owls.
Go Owls.
Yes. He enjoys spending time outdoors with his wife, hiking, mountain biking, and kayaking, and extreme walking, which we're going to ask him about. They travel 4 to 5 months out of the year to beautiful summertime places. I'm so jealous. Obviously, they're not coming here in the summertime.
Right.
Currently, he retired in 2012, I believe, from BLM after over 30 years of federal service, where he was the lead land surveyor in Arizona for 26 years and New Mexico for another 5 years. And is that right? No, correct me.
I was a GCDB manager and other things.
Oh, okay. During those time periods?
Yes.
Okay. Were you at BLM though?
Yeah,
I got that part right.
I wasn't like the boss of the bosses in this office. Yeah,
gotcha.
I was kind of a lead of.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Okay. Well, thanks for correcting me.
And to Dennis's credit, I would not have corrected you. I would just be like, I was the guy.
I'll take it. Yeah. Integrity.
Exactly.
There we go. Yeah, and he's currently so. Correct me if I'm wrong here. You do private research, right?
Yes.
Into digital boundaries.
Yep.
And GCDB. Tell me what that is again. That's Geographic
Coordinate Database.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're still working with that as well?
Yeah,
a little bit
for money, but yeah.
Right. And this was funny, and I'm going to tell a story again because it's freaking hilarious. When you told it last time, you said you're not a sports fan, which may be because you were scarred for life after being tricked into watching Muhammad Ali take a beating in the Rumble in the Jungle.
I got to hear more about that.
Or in Manila or something.
Yeah, whatever that one was. Well, anyways, Dennis, welcome back to the Geoholics. Thanks for driving over and being in studio, first and foremost, and it's great to see you again.
Yeah, great to be here.
All right, so we've where did my... Go ahead, Sean. Do you have it pulled up?
The first thing we always do is our Trimble icebreaker, geospatial.trimble.com. One of our also great partners. We're going to be there next week.
Yep.
Trimble is dedicated to big thinking, innovation, together with their worldwide distributor partners. The Trimble Geospatial team is working with current and future generations of surveyors for a more sustainable future.
Love Trimble.
This week's icebreaker question. And I think we saw a little bit, but I want something specific. What is one of your favorite hobbies?
My favorite hobby.
You can't give me like 7. You gotta pick one and tell us why.
I think that my favorite thing to do.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair.
To walk on pilgrimage trails in Europe.
Okay. There's going to be a follow-up question to that. First off, what is a pilgrimage trail in Europe? I mean, I know where Europe is, but
there's a cathedral in northern Spain that people have been visiting for hundreds of years, and people have traveled all over from Europe to that cathedral.
Okay,
and those things still go on.
And is that the one where there was a movie where there was like a 100-mile, or there's like a walk where you go from one place and you end up in that cathedral? Is that right?
Yeah, that's the same one.
That's the same one.
Yeah.
And do you have to start at a certain spot, or you just kind of hop on wherever and then just jump on the trail?
Yeah, hop on wherever you want. And there's quite a network of trails. And I did one in southern Spain about 12 years ago, and last November, this time I was walking on the north coast of Spain.
Really?
Yep.
So I got to ask, why? And not to say that in a way that doesn't sound amazing, but why is that your favorite thing to do?
I think it's beautiful, and I love being able to stay at these places that have been putting up pilgrims for years, and just the camaraderie, the people you meet. It's just. It's a thing of its own.
Really?
I really enjoy it. And you don't have to pack your tent or your kitchen gear, stuff like that. So you get to carry a light pack, and that helps, on the knees, and helps make the walk more pleasant. So yeah, that's a big part of it. Yeah.
And the thing that Dennis hasn't shared quite yet is how far he took this trail last year about this time.
Well, last year I would say 370 miles.
Sorry, I just won't spit up a little bit.
That's insane.
On foot,
yeah.
And how long did that take you to do?
It took there were some rest spots, so it took me about a month.
Isn't that amazing? And every night just staying somewhere differently.
I know.
You
that
don't
just
have
sounds
planned.
So cool.
Such a great adventure.
I mean, like my biggest adventure was, we went to a place, we didn't know where our hotel was. We were just going to book one on our phones a few hours before we needed to go. And this is so much beyond that, right?
My. First world problems, right?
We got to ask, what's your favorite hobby?
Oh, curling. Outside of podcasting, of course. But curling has just been so rewarding to me in so many different ways.
I mean, we have a couple of seconds. Why?
Oh my gosh, just the friendships I've made, the camaraderie, the the ability to travel and just meet new people. It's just like a small fraternity of these freaking weirdos that like the sport of curling. And it's just like this band of gypsies that travel around and curl in different parts of the country, and you can curl all over the world. Once you learn the basic skill, you can do it anywhere.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's amazing.
That's cool.
And it's great exercise. It's great for the mind. It's great physically. And there's always beer in the end.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So it checks all the boxes for you.
Every box, basically.
Nice.
Every box. What about you, man?
Oh, mine is golf.
Golf, for sure.
It's just that place that regardless whether it's a scramble with people I don't know and I'm networking, or it's my good buddies that I get to play with, or like last weekend played with, some my country club opened back up again and played with some people that I hadn't met before and just got into a team thing. Like, it just seems like whether I'm playing well or playing bad, I kind of escape in there a little bit, and that little 4-hour window is like meditation for me. Like I get That's done good. And I realize that I didn't think about a lot of other things, and I only thought about this. And I think that's what meditation is.
I agree. 4 hours of meditation, that's intense.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And
good for you.
And there's somebody that brings you beer.
Brings you beer. Again, checks all the boxes.
Checks all the boxes.
Right. All right, Dennis. So this the GCDB thing. I know we talked about it last time you were on, but just kind of give our listeners a clear picture as to what that is exactly.
Okay, the GCDB was a project that the BLM did to collect the lats and longs of all of their monuments, plus all the survey points that you would create by section subdivision down to the 40-acre parcel level.
Wow.
Or even if it has been subdivided more than that, to collect that. But then all these federal boundaries like mineral surveys, grants, all that stuff is whatever the government has, BLM keeps records for. We developed a digital picture of all that using the coordinates.
Yep. And can this be overlaid like on Google Earth or something like that?
Yeah, it's been done. Yeah.
That'd be huge. That'd be what a tool that would be. Yeah,
a big part of that, which is the parcel boundaries that were generated out of that, are now able to be streamed from the web right now. So if you are on a GIS package and connected to the internet, you can just point to that website and get it.
Gotcha. We were talking about, before you got here, Sean, we were talking about like how amazing Google Earth is and what an incredible tool it is. And it keeps advancing to being able to do more and more. I just saw recently there was an update that, created like this 3D thing or something. I mean, it's unbelievable. But I do want to give a plug to EarthPoint. Have you heard of EarthPoint by chance? It's a plugin for Google Earth. And it shows you like all, again, plus or minus, the section lines and the quarter section lines and that type of thing. It's just a really good tool. So if anybody out there doesn't know about EarthPoint, check that out as well. They're actually going to be one of our strategic partners next year.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's cool.
Don't tell anybody.
Oh, it's a secret.
Yeah. So what is the value of doing something like this? And how does it different from, there was something like CAD, NSDI or something? Are they're two different things?
They are.
Okay.
They are. The parcel coverage that I talked about that you can get to right now is the CAD NSDI.
Okay.
It has no survey measurement data in it. So you're just really seeing what the assessors and general public would like out of that. But we have collected the bearings and distances of all the surveys that we had on hand and used that to generate the coordinates through least squares adjustment. So that when we want to add new surveys, we can just add more measurement data to that pile of numbers. And do another analysis on it and get a better idea of lat longs of all those places.
Keep tightening it up, basically.
Just keep tightening it up. Keep trying to get it more close to reality.
So do you then just shift those boundaries as you get better data?
Yep.
You rubber
but it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me because no matter what coordinate you get, that coordinate is not the exact value of the center of the coordinate. It's always some distance.
Sure. Yeah.
And so,
But that's an important point that I don't think a lot of people know is just because that's a point on a map you can get to and you can get a lat long doesn't necessarily mean that's what the records would show is that spot. Is that right?
Right. Well, if you go to that coordinate with a real good GPS, you might find the monument over somewhere else.
Sure. Yeah, it's a good starting point.
Right. And that's one of the values of the GCDB is that when we do that analysis, we also include with every coordinate how far off that monument it probably is.
Nice.
And that's a key part of what I
So who is maintaining this?
The BLM is still maintaining it.
Okay. And is it available to the public?
Yeah, you can just stream it.
Okay.
Yeah, the CAD and NCI, but the actual measurements, you can contact different state offices and, maybe get a hold of it. When I was in Arizona, we just would make DVDs and we just have a bunch of copies. And if somebody wanted it, then we charge them, $4 or $5 and for the cost of the actual disc. And then they'd run off with tons of data.
All you have to do is ask, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But things, sometimes some offices will provide that on the internet, but you almost have to use special software in order to read it. That's the drawback to it. It's not in a format that's easy to use.
Why is that?
Because it was a hard enough thing just to get those things into data files. And it's just moving it into a GIS, which would make it help for everybody, was yet another stage that never was really completed. Although I work on that all the time of trying to get to that measurement data available to the public.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, throughout my career, I would use like the BLM GLO website, right?
Oh yeah.
To get records and stuff like that. It's invaluable. There's so much good information there. But the one thing that drives me insane, I just went to the website right now. It's like so archaic. It needs to be updated. It's like,
I know.
It looks like it's made in DOS or something like that. But I think everything is there. It's just a bit of a struggle to find everything.
Right.
But it's an amazing website. Tons of information.
And I was there in Virginia where that stuff was housed and talking to this guy that really helped put that together. And he was telling me that what we should do with that data is to build a polygon of where that thing is, and then assign that, link it up to the image itself so that you could have a spatial index of the data.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
And then he ended up retiring and we never heard of it again. But I carry on that idea.
Hey there, Geoholics. Let's talk about one of our newest and most exciting friends of the program, Hexagon. Hexagon is the global leader in digital reality solutions, combining sensor, software, and autonomous technologies. Their solutions free their customers to harness the rapidly increasing amounts of data, putting it to work to boost efficiency, productivity, quality, and safety across industrial, manufacturing, infrastructure, public sector, and mobility applications.
That was a freaking mouthful, buddy.
Right.
Hexagon's strategy targets the rapidly widening gap between the enormous amounts of data being created and the world's ability to harness it. That's a massive challenge right now. For more than a decade, literally billions of things, sensors, and devices are being connected to the internet. Their unique approach is to create value by freeing their customers to actually use all this data to put it to work in new world-changing ways.
Yeah, you said one of our favorite phrases. They're creating value. Yep. And their goal is to empower their customers with the freedom to use data to its greatest potential, the freedom to innovate, the freedom to thrive, the freedom to ensure a sustainable planet for future generations. To learn more, simply visit hexagon.com and follow them at HexagonAB.
And tell them the Geoholics sent you. So, I mean, there's certain acronyms that I want to make sure we clarify. And for example, National Spatial Data Infrastructure.
Right.
What exactly is that?
That is an idea that the government came up with, the federal government, to have several mapping themes that were available to the public that would be free and online all the time, but that you would really only have one version, like say, and they had different themes like vegetation. So
Got it.
That kind of a thing. And say transportation. So, of course, you give it to the highway division to oversee that one whole map of all the roads being on sort of like one map. And another theme, there were 7 themes, but one of them that I, of course, was involved in was the cadastral theme.
Okay.
And that theme was one where the idea was that you would build one like nationwide map. It'd be like a nationwide, like assessor map, except that it has a lot more functions, just assessor data. And that is what became the CAD-NSDI. So CAD-NSDI is short for the cadastral theme of the National Spatial Data Infrastructure.
Yep.
And FGDC, the Federal Geographic Data Committee, is overseeing all that spatial data infrastructure.
So the NSDI, that is available to the public, right?
Yes.
Yep.
And that's the idea. Whether it's been implemented on all those 7 themes, I don't think so.
Right.
Because there has been kind of a shift in how involved the government is to solving problems since they became the problem.
Yeah.
And funding dries up. So
yeah. So it seems like there's handful of entities kind of doing the same thing as far as developing this database.
Right. Right now there is, different people are involved in different aspects of that National Spatial Data Infrastructure.
Okay.
Everybody has their own wheelhouse, like USGS probably does all the mapping of topography theme. But that's the idea, that there would be one single theme, one single map for all of that data. But it has not gotten to that place yet with the cadastral data.
What do you even think that's possible? Would the amount of data that would go into that one central map be too much? Or is there a reason why it's kind of split out like that? Or
it's split out because people haven't come together. But the idea is that every, say, agency that oversees land, like counties or BLM or something, would actually publish the data of whatever they're controlling, whatever they're managing.
Sure.
So, like if you're a county, you would only put that stuff up on the internet, and it would be the point of some, anybody who wants to build a website to be a portal could just start pointing to all of that, all of those themes, and just stitch them all together so that the user would never see that data came from different sources.
Yeah, how the sausage is made, so to speak.
And I would even think like, Google Earth is probably like that. It's, I know they've got some pretty big servers, but I mean, they could really have different servers serving up that data. And then when you go into their software, it probably points you to those parts of those servers. So,
and it doesn't seem like you would need some big monstrosity like Google or that could have servers big enough, because we're talking about massive amounts of data, right?
I never really look at it as being that much. I mean, the GCDB for all the Western states and a few states in the Eastern State Office, I had on my computer.
Oh, really?
On my laptop, yeah. Yeah, so it's not that much. But when you start adding, it's really only the government stuff, but if you start adding all the private land holdings, this private property,
sure.
It's going to be bigger, But I don't think it's that much. It's not that much data. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious, do you know, is anybody like partnering with Esri at any of this? Because it seems like that would be like a perfect marriage there.
Yes. The BLM has Esri as their software vendor.
Okay.
I was interested in coming up with a solution that's vendor neutral. So I keep pushing on that. I worked with Esri for about 10 years trying to get a big system together, working with their consulting group. I was dealing with the field and office part of, and GCDB part of surveying that the BLM was doing, or, trying to build it for a nation, trying to design it to be a national application for everybody.
What a massive undertaking.
There was more of it that I wasn't involved in, which was who owns what land and the whole history of land transactions and everything, and that whole pile of data and all these different kind of aspects that the BLM is involved in. And it just got so, it was like top heavy. And even though we had our act together in the survey world to get some really good software, and it was really looking good, but somehow that project just fell flat on its face, and fingers got pointing in all the different directions.
Yep.
But that just didn't happen. And now they're trying to resurrect the BLM is trying to resurrect some other thing, but they're using Esri software, but it isn't the same kind of a thing as a massive project. But
Yeah. I mean, it's like people probably don't even think about this, but how lucky we are to have the cadastre that we have, right? Because there's so many other countries that don't have that. And that's like the foundation, the building block for everything.
Right. Yeah, I'm a big proponent.
Of course. Yeah.
Is that because we're younger as a country compared to most others?
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think Thomas Jefferson was in charge of figuring something out on that, and he came up with he'd seen this idea of townships and sections and decided, hey, let's just get it surveyed before we pass title on it.
Yeah.
And build this whole grid across the nation, and then that's the structure within which everything gets tied to. And of course
everything is tied to it.
Right.
Because like we've had people on before talking about like creating cadastres for underdeveloped countries that don't have such a thing.
Right.
But what a massive undertaking it is. I mean, if you could get something like that established, it establishes ownership, and then there's a tax base, and then there's like so much that is built off the cadastre.
Yeah. It really helps an economy.
Yes,
just to have real trustable boundaries and not thinking that somebody's just going to roll through there and take it away.
Yeah,
it's something we don't appreciate enough, I think.
And that's well said. Like we've had a couple guests on that even blows my mind. I forget how critical that is of just the fundamental concept of that this point is this point, and it's no one else gets to move it. It exists, and that's one of those like hard facts that you can't change, right?
Yep.
And it's what all of this stuff is based on.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yep. Sean, I would think what you just said is correct, but there are surveyors out there that find that point and still set a point 3/10 away because they think theirs is more accurate.
Well, yeah,
it happens.
But it's the point of beginning. Like it.
Oh yeah.
What is true? Whatever. Yeah. I mean, if everything is based on that one point, then what you say it is can't be right because it's what that one is.
Capiche?
God, I love this. I love this business.
It's enough to drive you crazy, right?
Right.
Oh my gosh. Going back to what a massive undertaking this is, I think last time we talked, there's like, I don't know, nationwide 3,000 counties. Is that about accurate?
Yep.
And obviously 50 states, and there's just so much to try to bring together in this database. Like, how close are we to having something like that, do you think?
Not close.
Not close.
Because we don't have any standards for how to share this data.
Yep.
And so any software that's written has to be written to the data that you have. And if you have 3,000 different standards, then you've got 3 different softwares you have to write.
Yeah.
Well, what standards do most? I mean, I'm assuming there's a standard that each county adheres to, right? Like, are they all picking one off of a list, or how does each county do it? And then is there a way to? Are they all picking the same standard? I mean, obviously they're not picking the same standard, but
they're not. It's like the saying goes: standards are great, and everybody wants their own, right? So.
We'll talk a little bit about what are the difference between those standards that are preventing this from happening.
Well, standards are built to accomplish whatever it is you want to get out of that data, whatever you're using it for, and different counties will want see it differently, and whatever they come up with the standard is really an artifact of something that might have happened before. With somebody that's no longer there. I mean, it's hard to know. But, my involvement was to try to build a national standard. That's back in the days with FGDC. We were building standards that ended up, one of them became the CAT NSDI, but another one has never been developed. It was identified, the survey measurement stuff. They said, yeah, there should be a standard for that, but nobody really created one.
Do you think there's still a need for it, right?
Oh yeah, there's no standard for, say, a bearing in a distance. It's kind of shocking. A bearing in a distance.
Crazy.
Yeah. Some of the
this?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no way to share that stuff. Mm-hmm. And even in the organization I was in with BLM, we couldn't even get data out of the field software to load it into our collection. We had to actually take the paper plat, and then key in all these values into our data. And it seemed not right at the time. So I basically trying to develop a system where you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. This might be a total reach, but could AI play a role in any of this when it comes to developing what we're discussing here?
I think AI is going to be really helpful in reading survey plats and converting those ink scratchings into numerical data.
Yep.
I think that's going to speed things up so much that it's not even going to be a problem. And there are, I think, even in the architectural field, they're using that.
Yeah.
And I just think it's just a matter of time before somebody applies that to survey plats.
Yep.
And so I'm of course pushing for that because there are a lot of survey plats, and it's going to take quite a lot. But
it's going to take a lot, and like you said, not every plat, but so many plats are have way different bases of bearings, right?
Right.
So to make all of these plats fit together that have all these different bases of bearings, it's going to be a challenge. There's going to be a lot of rubber sheeting and that type thing that's going to happen in order to make it so.
One would think, but what I did when we were in this project, GCDB project, and I was part of the software design, is I insisted, and somehow it got passed, that we be able to put our data in the plat units, in the native units. Uh-huh. So if we were working with a mineral survey, we would put in feet, and then if we were just working with GLO and PLSS stuff, we put it in chains and true north and everything. But in some plats, you'll get the state plane coordinate.
Sure.
And so we developed a software so that when you define a survey, you just define the survey that, the units that they used. Mm-hmm. Was it plane projection or what plane? So that is how we managed to get the data so that when you look at a plat and look at the data, it's the same value, but then it all gets translated to whatever the computer wants to have it. I mean, you might say, I just want to stick it all in UTM or all in geographic or state plane or whatever. All that data can be converted into a single unit, and then you can compare the values of each other with each other. I mean, so that's what comparing two different surveys. You got to have the same unit. But if you think, something must be wrong, then you want to see, well, did that get entered? Did that get entered properly? Mm-hmm. You want to have the same value, in your database that you on your screen or whatever that's on the paper, or the digital image you happen to be looking at. But anyway, that's the thought behind that, because I've been involved in so many instances where the data didn't get put in properly. And you can just grind yourself to a halt, hauling out your calculator, trying to put all that in again, enter it in again just to check it. And
so much room for error.
Oh yeah.
So if you could have it your way, what would the standard be?
Good question.
I wrote it, and it's in the appendix of this book that I wrote back. What was it? Back in, I think I finished it in February or something. So I did come up with a physical standard for survey measurements, and also standards for the kind of things that are like section subdivision, or it's like geometric constructions. If you want to construct an offset, and there's really no boundary to measure, but something like a setback line, or just not a right of way, but an easement, something like that. Then you can put in the geometry. It's like the coordinate geometry kind of definitions of that stuff, and then that becomes something that is on the screen.
Yep.
So and curves, the parts curves, which you don't really measure along the curve.
Yeah, right.
But you just, So anyway, those things are all in that standard control points, where they come from, pointing to the actual document that you got them from, that kind of complication. But then once that standard's in there, then you can build these enormous geodatabases of this information, and it just becomes so much more useful. Yeah.
Sure. So from your perspective and with all your years of experience, what can surveyors be doing better?
I would like to see them have software that allows them to concentrate on the decisions that they have to make, instead of having to fuss with meeting the requirements of their software, but to be able to just, get information in their hands right away. And then whatever decisions that they have to make the data presented to them in a way that makes sense. And so that would streamline surveying quite a bit, to be able to, it's like bringing up a plat right away on your screen to check something, or maybe just get a list of all the measurements that were made on a particular line, and maybe have a statistical kind of analysis to see if, where the outliers are, and just different ways of looking at the data, just poking at the data from different ways, just to uncover what it is that doesn't make sense in a particular survey, because that happens too. You could just be somewhere and this just doesn't make sense. And what happened? Why did this? Why is this thing over here?
Right.
And so if you had that information at hand right there, you can you can really resolve things right on the spot. Yeah. Or if you make a mistake, you might have been the person that you're just like, oh my gosh, I hope the boss didn't see this. And so you can really, oh my gosh, make another measurement, or, think things through a little bit more clearly. And also to have it in a form that you can pull all the evidence together that you've collected, and just, send it to your boss, and his software just is the same thing, okay, I'll just take a look and make a decision.
Good.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
So could you imagine, I think there could come a day where all that information is, gathered in one database, and there's like an augmented or virtual reality component to this, right?
Right.
Where, you're out in the field with the VR goggles on, and when you're looking around, you're seeing the different surveys basically in front of you
on the ground.
On the ground. Yes. Exactly.
Well, I think that's great. I even think there's a step before that where and I think what you were talking about is like it's more in real time, where you can see, okay, I have a field crew out here. They're staking points, and then I can see that in real time, and like, well, no, that one's we're staking curb, and that is way over here, or we're supposed to be hitting this property boundary, and you just hit a spot that is not on that property, and that's what you. And then what in normal time that would take. Oh, yeah, it gets back to the office. Someone then pulls it in and says, "Hey, what was that?" Then he talks to him, and then you go through this, and then, 3 days later, okay, that was not correct. But in real time, you can resolve that. And I think that's what you were talking about, right?
Yeah, it is. And you can see like data in, like, say, for instance, if you're looking for a corner, you can just say, "Hey, show me the corners," and they might just show up on the ground as just like posts of light. And you can just walk up to them. But then there might be just something where you can just see a bell curve that we expect you can find this this corner within, like 2 inches, or it might be 300 feet in some more remote areas. It's got to be, 95% chance it's going to be within this 300 feet. Yeah. Well, then now you know where to look, or to sort of quit looking.
Yeah. And like a real-time air ellipse. On the ground,
right? And what I just thought of is, what if there was that little drone guy that just kind of follows you around? Say this
out loud.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm giving it away. But what if that was like a little, like you just had your little drone following you, and it's like, okay, go find the corner, And whatever it had, it would just kind of hover and okay, let's go under that, and then you would go and find it. It would at least get you close enough, and then boom, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If anybody listening,
please do that.
Proprietary to Geoholics.
Please ignore what Sean just said. But man, there's the future is bright, no doubt about it.
Yeah. So I have a question that just not on the list, but you had a solid 30 years there. Is there anything that you would look back and wish you would have done differently?
Small things, but nothing to mention. I'm really pleased with what I did,
and I don't think I'm going there at all. But
I know.
But what about what? Was there any little thing along the way that you wish you would have dove into more at the time, and would have helped later?
That's a tough one, because I really think I really put myself into a good place. I thought I had a really good sense of what I had to learn. I can't think of anything that I learned that I wasn't really that helpful for me. But I wish there would have just been more funding, and it wasn't my job to do that. It was just
But what if you would have had that funding? What could you have done? Maybe?
I would have continued building that standard and creating a system where private, surveyors would be able to just use that information as they're in the field, and then, move that information through the process, and then have it published back up to the internet to the public without tiers.
Yeah, like an open source of information,
absolutely.
Right?
Open data. Yeah,
because it doesn't make sense to me. It's like, even like, here in Arizona, we're very, very spoiled in Arizona. You know that, like GDAX, that type thing.
Right.
And it amazes me how many times I see surveyors in the middle of the intersection surveying the same point that has been surveyed 500 times before. Why do we have to survey it again? Isn't there a coordinate already established for that? Why do we have to establish a new coordinate for it? Just use the coordinate.
Yeah, well.
And instead of, risking people out in the middle of the intersection. I see it all the time.
And do you think that's a lack of understanding of that coordinate exists?
It might be that surveyor didn't consider that coordinate to be the right coordinate. I guess, they might have to go to that monument to evaluate whether that is the monument. Because, that's one of the things a surveyor has to do is, the coordinates don't mean anything if it's not on the right monument.
Sure.
So, I think that's probably what drives it. But then I think they've got the equipment, and I just don't think they can help themselves.
That's not where I thought you were going, but you're probably right.
That's great. Well, there is a part of that where it's, hey, it's not right until I hit it and I say it's right.
Yeah.
And every surveyor is the same way, and they all don't think that it's they have to validate it for themselves.
Yeah.
Which there's a component to that. I mean, I get that.
Yeah. I'm guilty of it. When I was doing a lot more work in Arizona, I am guilty of sending people out in these intersections to hit these points that, in hindsight, they're, in many cases, I should say, it wasn't necessary. We've measured it before. 25 other surveyors have measured it before. Yeah. It has an established coordinate. It's good.
But at some point, then are you just using that to make sure your guys are doing it right, or make sure they can actually?
There's other ways to make sure they're doing it right.
I know that, but and I know you don't have to go out in the middle of an intersection to do it, but I don't know. There's a little bit of narcissism when it comes to surveyors. Said. Sorry. I
don't disagree. Yeah. So Dennis, back on the wisdom topic, what are some things that advice, let's say, that you would give younger surveyors in today's world of surveying?
I would definitely be as digital as possible, and not give up on.
What do you mean by that?
Really, just learn how to use software, and also, I think one of the things that I would put in there, it's almost sounds like the opposite of what I just said, was just to really concentrate on evidence, really concentrate on case law, statute law. I mean, really evaluate evidence and make good decisions. And the measurement stuff isn't that hard anymore. But I would love to see evidence being available to people in their digital devices as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I think you would agree with that, right?
Oh yeah, 1,000%. Yeah, for sure. There's just so many ways that we can streamline the process, and set our surveyors up for success.
Right.
And
what I'd love to see is to have a depiction of all the surveyed lines and almost like a coast to coast plat, and you're just zoomed in on part of it.
Yeah.
What I see is almost like building a survey plat that looks like a survey plat, but when you really inquire on a line, you'll see all the measurements that were made on that line, but it's just still one line.
Right.
That's the point. But you'd have all that information available to you, so you will see if there were outliers, if you are an outlier, or and just also have the records on hand to validate that you are in the right place and that you're looking at the right thing.
Sure,
it's a tricky thing because sometimes you think, okay, I'm going to be looking for a rebar, and you really darned and determined. You go right to where it is. The fences go right up to it, and you look there, and there's no rebar, but maybe a half-inch pipe, and then you think, oh my gosh, now what? So it's a tricky thing, the whole thing about evidence. But I think getting that all the recorded surveys possible into digital format, you could start going through that stuff, much more meticulously.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Something else I'd like to get your opinion or input on. I mentioned the Giallo website and the records that are available, that type of thing. And I've been very fortunate in my survey career to do a lot of very large retracement surveys, having to go back to the Giallo notes to help us locate corners and stuff like that. And it still boggles my mind on how good those original surveyors were with establishing these corners. And when you go back and remeasure them with today's technology, it's amazing how close that they were.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
I know. It is incredible to think you're going to find some sloppiness, and then sometimes it's just as tight as can be. Be hard pressed to actually do what they did.
Yep.
Hey there, Geoholics. Let's talk about TopoDot. TopoDot is a comprehensive solution to manage point cloud data, assess data quality, and extract topographies, models, analysis, and other forms of digital twins. Geospatial data acquired along road, rail, utility, and other land survey applications present unique processing challenges. The TopoDot production process is designed to meet these challenges with the right balance between automation and quality, thereby ensuring complex project requirements are met at the lowest possible cost. TopoDot's applications are set up to make sure the quality assurance and control are always part of the extraction workflow, ensuring that deliverables can meet high standards while also maintaining a productive and efficient project schedule. Digital twin production at the lowest cost possible. To find out more, visit topodot.com.
I got to ask about the technology, and you mentioned AI and how that can be used, and you did say the words that I've never heard before, but the measurement part is easy now. But we talk a lot about hardware and software. I'm curious what your take is on where do you see the future in surveying and maybe in the software, and where do you think this is going?
Well, what I'm trying to push is to get these survey measurements in geodatabase tables. And it's just so much more useful when they're that, because you can make a map out of it and you can publish that map. And so any surveyor could go to a website that's so designed and then just window in a little area, draw a little something of here's where my job is. And all the data from that goes right into their laptop as a database. And then as they survey, it's like if they, put their GPS on a monument and get a reading, then the software says, well, it looks like you're pretty close to this monument. Is it the monument or isn't it?
Yeah.
And then you say, yes, that's it. And then all of a sudden that whole network gets readjusted and refined.
So that happens automatically, quote unquote,
right,
instead of having to do it in the field on the fly.
Right. So then every time you do that, then your network gets readjusted and readjusted. And by the time you've done it all and set all the points you need to set, then the plaque can be derived from that. Mm-hmm. And then the whatever notes or documentation can be generated from that same information, because as you mentioned, okay, describe a monument. I mean, you could write it down or speak it or almost think it these days. Yep. It's gonna go into watch what you think. It just goes into this database, and it's all organized because it knows where it's all going to go. Yeah. And so it's just to take all the fussy work out of the surveyor's hands. And I don't think, I think about geodatabases. I've been thinking about this lately, about how it's been real hard for some surveyors to think about GISs and geodatabases, but it's not something to worry about so much. I mean, when you're actually say you're shopping online for something and it says, hey, we've got 12 items left, and you buy one, you've just interacted with the database. See, that's what data visualization is. And if you are
by the way, I think I doubt that whole "there's only one left," because I swear everything I look at, there's only a couple left, and of course I just buy it. But
I agree. You really wonder when that happens. I know. Right. But that's the thought. I mean, they know what those things are. And, you're really looking at databases, and if you're actually using your nav system, or you say, go to this address, and it just routes all this stuff. Those are geodatabases. Mm-hmm. You are interacting with a geodatabase, and surveying shouldn't be any harder than that.
Yep.
That's well said.
Well, because this right here is a walking geodatabase.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
So you're doing it all the time. So, don't let your eyes glass over when you hear surveying and geodatabase in the same sentence, because it really will revolutionize surveying when all the sort of known data about those surveys is right in your device.
And I don't think we're that far away from it, with all of how most of these, GPS and everything else is so connected. Mm-hmm. I mean, if it's connected to a cloud so you can send it right to your office, we're not a few steps away from it just being out there where everything else is. And back to my only question, how do you house all of that if there's one central location for every point or every data point of a geodata? That's got to be massive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think we're going to put it all in one spot. I mean, like I say, each county probably has their own server.
And then it goes back to what you were talking about. If you establish the right standards, everyone can house all of what they need in their county or their area, and it can all talk to each other.
Right.
Instead of me having to go to one website for Maricopa's county assessor and then a different one if I cross the street, because now I'm in a different county. I got to go to a whole different database, basically. Right.
Right. And there might be, we talked about this before. I mean, you might have the assessor database, but then you want to see the floodplain stuff, and then you want to see the transportation stuff, and it's sort of like they might have solve that problem in this county and other counties, but there's places where that's the case.
It's probably more critical in the counties that haven't solved it, which actually need that information.
Right. So that's what this CAD NSDI, the whole idea that predated CAD NSDI, the parcel theme was the multi-purpose cadastre, which was the idea in 1980, where they said we should just have one and concentrate on making that right.
Yep.
Because they could see, there's so much redundancy and chaos and everything. And that was 1980. That was before people even considered having their own computer. I mean,
that's wild.
Just a long time ago with mainframes and all that stuff. They just, this is how we need to solve this problem. And they, the National Research Council kept putting out booklets, being more specific about how to solve this or that. And then, things just kind of fizzled out.
Sure.
But the ideas, they've never come up with a better idea.
Yeah. Well, I mean, our cadastre is the foundation of the fabric of America, honestly.
Right. And you may as well have a digital version of it.
Why not? We should. Yes. Why don't you get on that, Dennis? What are you doing?
What am I doing?
That's great.
What have I doing in the last 30, 40 years?
What have you been up to? Oh, man. What else? You got anything else, Sean?
Oh, no. I love the conversation. Keep going. What else you got?
Oh, you want to keep going?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, give me a couple more.
Couple more. What is...
There's a couple good questions on here.
Oh, of course. I wrote them. Which one do you want to go with? Pick one.
What about and we go back to a common theme.
Yep.
The next generation of surveyors. There is a lack of new surveyors and new, there's just not enough people in this industry. What advice would you give, or what do you think about how are we going to manage going forward with more retiring surveyors than ones that are coming on? What are we going to do?
What to do? I don't know what there is to do. It is a problem. It's a vexing problem.
Yep.
I mean, right now the BLM is thinking, "Wow, we're losing some people who, surveyors."
They just now figuring this out.
Well, back when Al Gore had a reinventing government, where they were looking at downsizing and getting everybody specific on their things. I think the first pass through worked pretty good. There was a few early outs and all that stuff, but then that just felt so good. They just kept doing it until, like all of a sudden people are thinking, we need to retain this institutional knowledge.
Right.
And that was just during the Clinton administration, that we were having work groups get together, think, what are we going to do about this?
Yep.
And so just on this phone call I had just this week, same problem.
Interesting.
Yeah. It just, people, when I left, I had about 4 hats when I retired.
Yeah.
And it was maddening.
Yep.
And it wasn't just that they downsized it a lot. There was things that happened in the Washington office where you had this core group of the big, surveyor setting policy and all that, the chief cadastral surveyor, and a few people that were highly trained and knew what they were doing, and they would interact with each other, and they would interact with other agencies, and you learn who you trust. You work with people and all that stuff in Washington, and they had the idea, well, why don't we just take those people and just scatter them around to different places? And so the chief cadastral surveyor got assigned to Santa Fe, but the survey group that was there, they moved them over to Albuquerque. And so it's like it's almost like they wanted no one communicating with each other, except for Zoom calls or something. Sure. But I think they lost a little something when they did that. So it's a real kind of discombobulated, because people have about 4 or 5 different jobs. Yeah. And then there just doesn't seem to be what you really need. It just really wasn't the same as it was back when we were fully funded and had staffs and specialists. And it almost takes a lifetime, I think, to learn how to think about some of these things, a career. And so that's what, people did. I mean, they were mentored by the person that was just in the line in front of them, and just kept learning until you pretty much had a pretty good sense about it. And people would call the BLM and say, "Hey, I got this problem. What do you do?" And they would solve those problems. And I don't know what happens now. I'm not part of that game anymore.
Right.
But I can't see that they could be as effective as they used to be.
Yep. Yeah, I'd like to get your insight on this. We had this conversation with Tony Nettleman here a couple of weeks ago. Like, you talked about standardizing things, right?
Right.
And one of the challenges, for, as a profession goes, is that becoming registered is different essentially in every state, right? The requirements, 4-year degree, 2-year degree, no degree. Do you think we could get to a point where we could standardize the requirements to become a licensed surveyor?
I'd hate to be the one in charge of that.
Yeah.
I would like it, but
very diplomatic answer.
Yeah. And you don't want to, you want to have as many surveyors as you can, and you need a profession that looks well upon.
Sure.
Yeah. So good standards would be important part of that.
Yep.
But,
getting them all
how we do that in this
getting them all
country.
to agree on one set is probably a little harder than you can tackle, right?
Right. Yeah. It might be that people in the colonial states might have a different test.
Sure.
Maybe not so much on how to solve a Section 6.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That we can never get away from that. The meets and bounds states are going to be the meets and bounds states.
Right.
I'm thinking more from an education perspective, right? I mean, every state's still going to have their exam because of statutes and things like that that are different. But like, what do you think? Like, if you could set the standard to be a surveyor, do you think it's a 4-year degree? Do you think it's a 2-year degree in experience? Do you think it's just experience? What's the mix?
Know, because I've learned so much from surveyors who did not have a degree.
Exactly. I agree.
So ouch.
Yeah.
Really, really knowledgeable.
Yeah.
But, some of it was self-taught, but some of it was just being around a surveyor, who did go to school or, something like that. So it's not.
It's so unique.
Too far. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
So I'm not in a place, it's a difficult thing to answer.
Yeah.
And apparently it's not been answered yet. So
yeah, no, it hasn't, unfortunately. $1 million question, right?
Really is.
Question. Yeah.
I love my 4-year degree. I learned so much.
Yeah.
That it's hard not to value what I just learned when I was doing that.
Exactly.
I love that part.
Yeah, it's probably that's a really good point because it depends on who you ask, right? Like you come from the 4-year degree background and, benefited from that tremendously. And then there's some surveyors, in say even Arizona where a degree isn't required that have become licensed surveyors based on experience alone. And they will have a different argument, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So interesting. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know the answer. I wish I did.
We do ask this question a lot, and I don't think we've ever answered it.
That question?
It could be. Yeah. It could be just testing.
Yeah.
If you do know the answer, then
whether you have a degree or not, if you pass
that's
the test, right?
And then it's going to be
point.
like how back to our conversation with Tony on how you make the test, and they're always either trying to get you or like what percentage of people should pass, and you want it to be challenging. You have to ask the hard questions because you have to filter out the guys that are not knowledgeable enough. But how do you make it hard enough to not dissuade people from getting into the profession when it's so lacking, and you just need you want to encourage people to do it without opening up the floodgates and having the lack of quality and the lack of accuracy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And the last thing I have, looking back on your career from your perspective at this point, what are a couple of things that stick out? Like maybe whether it be highlights of your career or, what some of the rewards that you gained as a result of being a surveyor, just kind of what you love about the profession.
Well, I loved every day of it. And that was a huge part of it. Is just liking the work. Just time to go to work, fine. Love it.
Yeah.
But I think we've talked about this before, is finding monuments that you could only find through solving quite a puzzle of, rare, hard to find evidence or hard to find features and things. That's always
the best.
That's always the best. That is the, huge moment of just elation.
It's like the definition of surveying, right?
Yeah, it's right there. Yep. It's like, kind of like a hole in one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I like that analogy. That was good. Exactly.
But the other part is, that just working with designing software and designing data standards at a national level was just hugely rewarding to me. Hugely difficult.
Yeah.
But still, I just felt so good about doing it.
Sure.
And so that's more of a long-term thing, not the single elation thing, because it's a real grind. But just doing that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Dennis, is there anything that you want to make sure you get out to the listeners that we may have not asked you about?
I don't think we talked about my book.
Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah, I wrote a book called The Digital Boundary Surveyor.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about.
I tried to get the information in that book that I just didn't want to leave. I didn't want to take it to the grave.
Oh, okay.
If you want to put it that way.
Sure.
Because I wanted to put it in a format that could be accessed and relied upon as a guide on where to go forward with surveying software and processes. And
nice. The digital boundary.
A digital boundary. So we're really talking about, I'm not talking about so much underground utilities and facility management things. I think that can be tied into this stuff, but I think just getting the boundary stuff down as a foundation was the part I wanted to take on. And so I wrote standards on how to do that and put the physical design standards in that book, but a lot of it was just discussing the reasoning behind what all that's about and what it's expected to do. So there it is.
How can people find it?
It's a PDF, and I have it on a Microsoft cloud somewhere.
So it's not on Amazon.
It's not on Amazon.
Not yet.
I've never printed it. Let me put it that way.
Oh, that's even better, because I don't think anyone these days, they just want to find it and consume it, right?
Right.
Online.
Right. And I did send it out to different state professional societies. I might have missed one or two that when you go to their website, you can't find, how to get in touch with the people. That's kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
And then I looked at all the colleges that had a 4-year degree in either surveying or geomatics, locate somebody and then just send that book to them.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've gotten so much of sending it to survey software companies so much. I got it in the hands of the people I know at Esri. And so I'm just trying to generate some interest in that and, find who out there is. I just want to know who out there is even wanting to, tackling this stuff.
Sure. So, you know what? It sounds like something good to put on the Geoholics Marketplace. A link to Dennis's book.
Yeah. And if you are interested, email info@thegeoholics.com. Yeah. Dennis will send you a digital copy, right? Okay. Or at least a link to find it.
A link to find it. And
that'd be awesome.
Yeah. And then,
that'd be really cool.
There's absolutely no cost. I mean, I'm not trying to get rich off of this.
Yeah.
There's nothing that I do I can really market. It's just the nature of the beast.
That's great.
Love it.
All right, man. Take it away.
We ask one question for everybody that's here. Last question.
Okay, I'm ready.
Do you have a mantra that you live by?
No,
I would say
classic answer.
Dennis, you are the first person that has ever said no. But I think you were going somewhere.
That was awesome.
Yeah, there was a something, and I don't know that it applies to everybody. It applies to me, and that's holding everyone in high esteem.
Ooh, love that.
It's kind of like Abraham Lincoln-ish.
Yeah. It actually ties right into that quote.
Yep. He was a surveyor, if I have to remind you. Abraham Lincoln.
I've never heard that fact.
You're in the presence of greatness.
I did not know that he was a surveyor. You never told me that before.
Oh, it's probably the 100th time.
Right.
Oh, man. Really good. Dennis, enjoyed this conversation. Even more than the last one.
I know.
For some reason. Maybe it's because Sean's here. I don't know.
I don't think that's it. But I think that you're in a bit. We got a new studio, and the atmosphere is what really created it.
Yeah. Really good to see you again. And thanks for being here. And let's do it again next year. What do you think?
I'm on it. Yeah. I love it.
We're game. All right. Adding value, making friends. Check both those boxes as usual. If anyone would like to be a guest on a future show, shoot us an email at info@thegeoholics.com. At this point, we're scheduling into January.
2025 is what we're scheduling into.
So get on the list sooner than later. Atmar Liebert and Luna Negra.
Nicely
by
done.
The way, is Black Moon, by the way. Black Moon, Luna Negra. Get it?
Oh, I just now did.
Havana Club available everywhere, I believe. Until next time, everyone. Couple takeaways: be as digital as possible, focus on the evidence, you have to love your work, hold everyone in high esteem, and check out Digital Boundary Surveyor. We're going to get a copy of that one way or the other, and at least get a link on the website.
Absolutely.
Another reason to check out the marketplace. But as always, and most importantly, be safe and healthy. Woo! You're on fire, Sean. What a day you've had. There we go.